Chapter 12 of Living Untethered by Michael Singer. Birth of the Personal Mind. Why don't we live in an ecstatic state of one-pointed consciousness all the time? What went wrong? What caused the fall from this proverbial garden? It's very simple. The world comes in and it's beautiful. The very act of experiencing it is tremendously moving when it comes all the way back into you. However, that does not mean it all feels the same. Heat feels different from cold because it's different. That doesn't mean one is better than the other. They just feel different. Somebody gently touches you and that feels very different than if they bumped into you. Different things are experienced in different ways. The Buddhists say everything has its nature. A coiled rattlesnake comes into the mind as a very different experience than a butterfly landing on your arm. The rattlesnake is giving off its nature, emanating its particular vibration. That vibration is awesome in its own way, but it certainly doesn't create the same inner experience as the butterfly. There's nothing wrong with this. It's very real. What's wrong with having a variety of experiences? If a butterfly landed on you every moment, it would become so normal that it would be nothing. God knew how to create a world that would always be exciting. Your consciousness actually expands because of the knowledge that flows into it. You're learning and growing through the experiences you are having. This learning through life is true spiritual growth. It is the evolution of the soul. Just like everything you learn makes you smarter, every experience you have makes you wiser. When the presence of a rattlesnake comes into your mind, true, it's not comfortable, inner experience. It doesn't feel the same as a butterfly, but it is just as rich. It is just as important. If you're willing to be open at this level, you're still in the idyllic garden. There are no problems, there are just learning experiences. No matter what happens, you are becoming greater. Unfortunately, that is not how we live. Something went very wrong. Let's take this fall from the garden in slow motion. First, something comes in. Let's start with the rattlesnake. It's not a particularly comfortable experience. In fact, a hissing rattlesnake is meant to be an uncomfortable experience. It may even generate discomfort at a survival level. That would be a strong inner reaction to the outer experience. But this uncomfortable inner reaction isn't bad per se. It's just a different vibration. Just like some colors are soothing and others are harsh. Colors aren't bad or good. They're just at different vibration rates of the electromagnetic spectrum. You can learn how to be comfortable with these different vibrations. A rattlesnake is not going to stay there rattling your whole life. It's going to come and it's going to go. And its uncomfortable vibrations are going to go with it. Then something else will happen. You live in a happening place filled with growthful experiences. You're simply in there experiencing creation as it comes in and passes through you. You don't practice that level of acceptance, however. You in there who is experiencing what's surrendering in your mind, you have the ability to resist what is not comfortable to you. You are given free will. You can use that will like inner hands to push away thoughts and emotions if they don't feel right. Surely you have done that. That resistance is an act of will. Will is an innate power you have. It is actually a power that emanates from consciousness. Just as the sun stays where it is in space, but it emanates rays that have great power, so consciousness remains at its source, but its awareness emanates out onto whatever it focuses on. There's great power when consciousness focuses on something, just as there is great power when the sun's rays are focused through a magnifying glass. You can feel the power of one-pointed concentration. It is indeed concentrated consciousness. That is the source of the power of will. The power of will plays a very important role in understanding how the mind developed from a place of clarity to one of confusion. You have surely noticed that your awareness does not fall evenly on all objects that render in your mind. You pay attention to some objects more than others. If the vibration of the object was more comfortable or uncomfortable, you either liked it or didn't like it. This is the foundation of how the personal mind got built, like and dislike. It happens at a very primal level. Basically, it depends on whether you in there have the ability to experience something that comes in without doing anything about it, other than fully experiencing it. This is the ability to allow objects to simply pass through. If an inner experience is not neutral to you, it draws your consciousness to focus on it. The moment that happens, the things passing through your mind are no longer even. One has stood out from the rest. All it took was for you to focus your consciousness on it. Your consciousness is a force, and you are focusing that force on a particular mental object. When the force of consciousness is focused on a mental object, that object cannot pass through the mind like the other objects. Just as the solar winds interfere with objects passing through space, so focused consciousness is a force that affects objects passing through the mind. When you focus consciousness on a particularly mental form, you impede that form's ability to pass through the mind. The very act of concentrating on it makes it stay in your mind. You know this. When you want to do math in your mind, you concentrate on the numbers so they stay long enough for you to manipulate them. In fact, anytime you want to hold something in your mind, you must focus your consciousness on it so it does not just fade away. Concentration of consciousness freezes forms in the mind so that they don't just pass through. Thus, when you saw a rattlesnake, it might as well have been a standalone item in your mind. The truth is, there were trees, grass, sky, and other items rendered in your mind aside from the snake. But you focused your consciousness on the rattlesnake and let the rest pass through. Interestingly, because you focused so much consciousness on it, you froze the experience of the snake in your mind. There was no way you were going to let this uncomfortable experience all the way in, and that is the birth of resistance. Do you know what that means? Letting it all the way in. We discussed this earlier regarding the beautiful sunset and the perfect romantic experience. You wanted to fully experience these beautiful moments, so you opened up and you let them pass all the way into your being. These are the special moments in life, when something touches you to the core of your being. No way this rattlesnake is going to go all the way in. You don't have to think about it. Resistance is simply a natural response to something that's not comfortable. You try to keep it at a distance. Have you ever kept something at a distance in there? Perhaps something someone said that hurt you in the past. Maybe an awkward stage you went through when you were young, or even a terrible divorce. Of course you have. But that doesn't mean the event didn't happen. It wouldn't be in there if it hadn't already happened. You can't stop the event from having happened, but you don't have to let it all the way in. Mind is a big place. There's plenty of room between where the experience is first imaged in your mind and where you actually fully experience it. You can use will to keep the mental image at a distance from you. This is a very primal act of resistance. Now that you have resisted experience of the rattlesnake and let the rest of the moment pass through, here comes a butterfly. It lands on you, which is such a beautiful experience that you naturally focus on it. When it starts to fly off, you don't want it to go, so you use your will to hold on to the mental image. This is what Buddhists call clinging. You can't hold on to the butterfly itself because it flew away. So you try to hold on to the mental thought pattern of the butterfly. You push away what it was like to experience the rattlesnake, and you cling to what it was like to experience the butterfly. Neither of these mental patterns can finish their natural journey through the mind. Not only do you lose out on fully experiencing them to the depth of your being, you're also left with these mental patterns stuck in your mind. Neither rattlesnake nor butterfly remain before you, but they are left as patterns in the mind's energy field. Such is the power of like and dislike. Both clinging and resisting keep the mental renderings in your mind. This is very important to understand. Experiential mind was meant to be like a clear TV screen. It renders the image being sent to it. But now you've held on to images, so there are that are no longer being generated by the outside world. They got stuck in your mind as mental patterns, and as a result, you're out of harmony with reality. You were in there experiencing the gift of reality. Now you are also experiencing the patterns you held on to in your mind. These patterns in your mind are totally different from the patterns in other people's minds. Each person's trapped mental patterns are unique and very personal. They come from how we interact with our past experiences. Since we've all had different past experiences and interact with them differently, the impressions held in our minds are totally different. This is the birth of the personal mind. The problem is reality is not personal. As you've already seen, we didn't create this world. We're simply experiencing the miracle of creation unfolding around us. Yes, there are rattlesnakes and butterflies in the world, along with lots of other things. But now there are rattlesnakes and butterflies in your mind, even when they are not actually in front of you. Now that you've held these leftover mental impressions in your mind, reality has to compete with them for your attention. Your ability to fully focus on the outer world is going to be hindered by the constant distraction of these inner impressions.